The revelation. The Galactic Assembly's Grand Hall shimmered under the ethereal light of Centauri Prime's twin moons. Ambassador Sarah Chen fought the urge to fidget with her formal diplomatic uniform as she observed the gathering of alien representatives. The massive chamber, carved from living crystal and suspended in high orbit, normally hosted routine trade negotiations and cultural exchanges. Today felt different. First speaker Ixthal, a towering figure whose crystalline body refracted light in complex patterns, called the emergency session to order. The usual subtle hum of translator devices fell silent as thousands of beings from across known space turned their attention to the central podium. We convene this emergency session. Ixthal's harmonic voice resonated through the chamber to address a grave concern regarding humanity's recent activities. Sarah maintained her diplomatic composure, but her pulse quickened. The incident at the Orion border station had been contained, or so Earth's strategic command had assured her. She glanced at her aide, Marcus Wong, who gave an almost imperceptible shake of his head. Their secured quantum communications remained silent. No new directives from Earth. The massive holofield at the chamber's center flickered to life, displaying footage that made Sarah's blood run cold. It showed the Orion incident from multiple angles that shouldn't have existed. The Vexcar pirates had struck without warning, their stealth ships materializing around the seemingly vulnerable research station. Standard procedure was to evacuate, abandon the station, and wait for military response. Instead, the station's outer hull had shifted. Elder Representative Kizarn of the Arxer Collective rose from their gravity throne, their ancient eyes fixed on Sarah. Would humanity care to explain how a civilian research station transformed into a defensive platform capable of neutralizing a Vexcar battle fleet? The chamber erupted in murmurs. The Vexcar were feared across 3 spiral arms for their advanced stealth technology and overwhelming firepower. Their ships had never been defeated in direct combat, until now. Sarah stood, smoothing her uniform. Earth had known this day would come, though not quite so soon. The Orion Research Station, she began, her voice steady, represents humanity's commitment to defensive innovation. When threatened, it activated its emergency protocols. Emergency protocols. Kizarn's scales shifted color in agitation. The station's structure completely reconfigured at the molecular level. It deployed weapon systems that our analysis suggests manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. This technology is centuries beyond humanity's development stage. Is it? Sarah allowed herself a small smile. By whose measure? The elder species have watched over the galaxy for millennia, cataloging and categorizing the development of younger races. You've created a neat hierarchy of technological progression, but humanity has never been good at following others' rules about what should be possible. The holofield shifted, showing the station's transformation in slow motion. Nanoscale machines had altered its very structure, transforming civilian laboratories into weapon emplacements. The Vexcar's first volley of plasma torpedoes had been caught in localized time dilation fields, frozen in space until they destabilized harmlessly. The pirates' supposedly impenetrable shields had failed against weapons that seemed to ignore conventional physics. This technology, first speaker Ixthal's crystalline form pulsed with concern. It bears similarities to artifacts left by the precursors. Humanity has found their ruins. No, Sarah replied. We developed this ourselves. The Orion station represents just one application of our molecular reconstruction technology. The same principles help us terraform hostile worlds, cure diseases, and repair environmental damage. And build weapons, Kizarn added darkly. When necessary, Sarah acknowledged. The galaxy isn't always a peaceful place, as the Vexcar reminded us. Humanity believes in being prepared. A representative of the collective mind, their neural interface glowing softly, spoke next. Our analysis suggests the energy requirements for such technology should be prohibitive. By conventional means, yes, Sarah nodded. which is why we developed unconventional ones. The chamber grew very quiet. Every spacefaring race knew that energy generation was the key to advanced technology. The elder species had spent millennia gradually improving antimatter reactors and zero-point energy taps. The implication that humanity had found another path was disturbing. How long? Kazarn demanded. How long has humanity possessed these capabilities? Sarah met their gaze steadily. Long enough to know when and how to reveal them. The Vexcar attack wasn't random. They were probing our defenses, testing us. We suspect certain parties encouraged them. The accusation hung in the air. Several elder representatives shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Humanity has violated no treaties, Sarah continued. We've shared medical technology, helped establish colonies on marginally habitable worlds, and participated fairly in galactic trade. We've kept certain advances private, yes, but there is no law requiring we reveal all our capabilities. The balance of power, Kazarn began, remains exactly as it has always been, Sarah interrupted smoothly. Humanity doesn't seek dominion over others. We seek security and peaceful cooperation. The Orion station defended itself with minimal loss of life. Even the Vexcar crews were captured rather than killed. Their ships are being returned, though I suspect they'll be less eager to raid human facilities in the future. First speaker Ixthal's crystalline form shimmered with complex patterns. The Assembly must consider the implications of this revelation. We will recess for one planetary rotation. Ambassador Chen, your government will prepare a full briefing on humanity's technological capabilities. Of course, Sarah bowed slightly. Though I should note, what you've seen represents only those technologies we're currently willing to discuss publicly. The implications of her statement rippled through the chamber as she gathered her materials. The Assembly would spend hours debating, analyzing, theorizing. They would eventually realize that humanity's apparent technological leap meant one of two things. Either humans were capable of innovations that defied conventional development models, or they had possessed these advances for far longer than anyone had suspected. Both possibilities would terrify them. As Sarah and Marcus left the chamber, her quantum communicator chimed softly. The message from Earth was brief. Proceed to Phase 2. Sarah smiled. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had been playing a very long game indeed. Ancient fears. Deep within the crystalline spires of the Arxer Collective's ancestral sanctum, Elder Representative Kazarn watched the holographic replay of the Orion Station incident for the 100th time. The station's transformation still defied conventional physics, its very structure flowing like liquid metal before hardening into an impenetrable fortress. The Vexcar pirates' weapons, powerful enough to crack a small moon, had been casually swatted aside by fields of distorted space-time. The humans have deceived us all, hissed Supreme Elder Vexthal, their ancient scales shifting through patterns of deep concern. The emergency conclave of elder species had gathered in secret, far from the prying eyes of younger races, and particularly human observers. The chamber, carved from living crystal over millennia, was designed to be impenetrable to any known form of surveillance. Not deception, corrected High Minister Zarkax of the collective mind, their neural interfaces pulsing with calculated precision. Misdirection. They showed us exactly what they wanted us to see, when they wanted us to see it. Kazarn's tail twitched in agitation. The implications are worse. Our analysis suggests the molecular reconstruction technology they displayed isn't new. The level of refinement, the seamless integration, they've had this capability for decades at minimum. The gathered elders processed this in silence. For a species to hide such advancement wasn't just unprecedented, it suggested a level of strategic planning that challenged everything they thought they knew about human psychology. There are only two possibilities. Zarkax continued, projecting a complex neural matrix into the chamber center. Either humans have achieved technological breakthroughs that completely bypass our understood progression of scientific development, or they have possessed these capabilities far longer than we imagined, finished Vexthal. Neither option is comforting. A new hologram materialized, showing human expansion patterns over the past century. What had seemed like routine colonization now took on a more ominous cast. Every human research station, every civilian outpost, could potentially harbor similar capabilities to the Orion station. Their ambassador Chen implied they have even more advanced technology they haven't revealed. Khazar noted, "Was that a bluff?" "Unlikely." Zarkax's neural patterns shifted. "Our probability matrices suggest humanity wouldn't reveal the Orion station's capabilities unless they had significantly more powerful technologies in reserve. They're showing us the tip of the iceberg to discourage us from looking deeper." "The question becomes," rumbled Ancient One Ixthor of the Crystal Consciousness, their form rippling with concerned harmonics, "what do we do with this information?" The chamber's atmosphere grew heavier. For millennia, the elder species had maintained galactic stability through careful management of technological progression. Younger races were guided, monitored, and occasionally restricted, all for the greater good, or so they told themselves. "We could demand full disclosure," suggested one of the younger elders. "United, our species cooled." "Could what?" interrupted Khazarn. "Go to war with a species that can restructure matter at the molecular level and manipulate fundamental forces as easily as we manipulate light. The humans didn't just defeat the Vexkar. They humiliated them without apparent effort." "There's another concern," Zarkax added. "Our analysis of human historical records shows a consistent pattern. They achieve their greatest technological breakthroughs when under pressure. A direct confrontation might push them to reveal capabilities far beyond what we've seen." The holographic display shifted to show human territory, a relatively small portion of the galaxy, but strategically positioned. What had seemed like random expansion now revealed itself as a carefully constructed defensive network. "They're not aggressive," mused Vexthal. "In 3 centuries of galactic citizenship, they've never initiated a conflict. But neither have they ever truly submitted to elder guidance." "Perhaps," suggested Ixthor, "that is the key to understanding them. We've treated them as we treat all young races, as children to be guided. But they've never seen themselves that way." Khazarn's scales shifted to a deep blue of realization. They've been playing a longer game. While we thought we were shepherding their development, they were quietly building capabilities that rival or exceed our own. A subtle vibration ran through the chamber. On every security screen, every monitoring device, a single message appeared. "Greetings, honored elders. Interesting discussion. Shall we talk openly now?" The impossible had happened. Their most secure facility, protected by technology refined over thousands of years, had been compromised. The message bore a human diplomatic signature. "Impossible," whispered an elder. "This chamber is impenetrable to any known form of surveillance," completed a new voice. Ambassador Chen's hologram materialized in the center of the chamber, her expression polite but firm. Known being the operative word. The elder species had gathered to discuss the human threat in absolute secrecy. Instead, they had walked into a carefully prepared demonstration of just how outmatched they already were. "Don't be alarmed," Chen's hologram smiled. "We've been aware of these meetings since they began. We understand your concerns. In fact, we'd like to address them directly, if you're willing to have an honest discussion about humanity's place in the galaxy." The elders exchanged glances. Their perfect secrecy had been an illusion. Their careful management of younger races was based on technological superiority that might no longer exist, and the humans had known all along. After all, Chen continued, her hologram displaying the warmth that belied the shocking demonstration of human capabilities, "Isn't it time we moved past the pretense of teacher and student? We have so much we could learn from each other, as equals." Project Aurora. Dr. Elena Santos stood at the observation deck of the Jupiter Research Complex, watching the massive form of Project Aurora taking shape against the gas giant's swirling storms. The station's quantum crystalline structure grew like a living thing, each new module spontaneously assembling from streams of programmed matter. Even after 15 years working on the project, the sight still filled her with wonder. Quite a view, isn't it? Director James Chen's voice startled her from her reverie. The older scientist, and father of Ambassador Sarah Chen, moved to stand beside her at the window. Our guests certainly seem impressed. Elena glanced at the delegation of elder species representatives being led through the facility. After Ambassador Chen's revelation of human surveillance capabilities, the diplomatic landscape had shifted dramatically. The elder species had chosen negotiation over confrontation, though Elena suspected they simply wanted to assess the full extent of human technology. The collective mind representatives haven't stopped scanning everything since they arrived, Elena noted. Their neural interfaces are probably overloading with data. Let them look, James smiled. That's why we invited them here. Project Aurora is impressive enough to satisfy their curiosity, while keeping our more advanced projects safely hidden. The elder delegation approached, led by Kizarn and Zarkax. Their escorts included both human diplomatic staff and security personnel, though the latter's advanced combat suits were deliberately styled to look ceremonial rather than threatening. Dr. Santos, Kizarn's scales rippled with barely contained excitement. Your matter programming technology defies conventional physics. The energy requirements alone should make this impossible. Elena exchanged a glance with James, who nodded slightly. Actually, the energy requirements are quite modest, she explained. We discovered that the universal constants aren't as constant as previously believed. They can be negotiated with under the right circumstances. The silence that followed was profound. The elder representatives watched as Project Aurora demonstrated capability after capability, each one challenging their fundamental understanding of physics and technological development. But beneath their scientific curiosity, a deeper realization was taking hold. Humanity hadn't just caught up to the elder species, they had taken an entirely different path, one that might lead far beyond anything the galaxy's ancient civilizations had imagined possible. The question was no longer whether humans could be controlled or contained. The question was whether the elder species were prepared for a future where they might not be the most advanced civilizations in known space. As Elena guided another round of tests, she reflected on the irony. Project Aurora's public revelation was itself a carefully calculated move, impressive enough to demonstrate human capabilities, while hiding the fact that they had already moved far beyond what the station represented. In other labs, deeper in the solar system, humanity's true cutting-edge research continued, pushing the boundaries of what even they believed possible. The choice. The Galactic Assembly Chamber crackled with tension. After the elder species tour of Project Aurora, an emergency session had been called to determine humanity's status in the galactic community. The massive hall was packed with representatives from every known spacefaring race, all awaiting the Elder Council's decision. Admiral Helena Reyes stood beside Ambassador Chen, her dress uniform adorned with the subtle insignias of Earth's strategic command. Her presence here was unprecedented. Military leaders rarely attended assembly sessions, but today was different. Today, humanity would reveal its final card. The Elder Council has deliberated. First Speaker Ixthal announced, their crystalline form pulsing with complex patterns. Humanity's technological advancement represents a clear threat to galactic stability. We propose immediate restrictions on human research and development, with oversight committees established to monitor compliance. A murmur ran through the chamber. Sarah Chen stepped forward, her expression calm but determined. With respect, First Speaker, humanity rejects these terms. This is not a negotiation, Ambassador, Kizarn interjected, scales dark with tension. The Council's decision is final. Your species has hidden dangerous technologies, violated the natural order of development. Natural order. Admiral Reyes spoke for the first time, her voice carrying easily through the vast space, or just the order that benefits the elder species' continued dominance. Silence fell. Even among the younger races, military officers did not interrupt council proceedings. Humanity has violated no laws, Rice continued. We've defended our territory, protected our interests, and advanced our understanding of the universe. We've shared medical technology, helped establish colonies on marginal worlds, and participated fairly in galactic trade. Yet you would punish us for succeeding too quickly. Your success defies all known patterns of technological development. Zarkax observed, neural interfaces flickering rapidly. It suggests capabilities far beyond what you've revealed. Of course we have other capabilities. Rice smiled slightly. Just as I'm certain the elder species have technologies they haven't shared with the younger races. The difference is, we're honest about keeping secrets. The Admiral gestured, and a holographic display materialized in the chamber center. It showed a vast network of installations throughout human space. Research stations, defense platforms, and facilities whose purposes weren't immediately clear. This is a small fraction of humanity's current infrastructure, Rice explained. Each facility represents a different branch of technological development. Some you've seen, like Project Aurora's reality manipulation. Others, well, let's just say the Orion Station incident barely scratched the surface of our defensive capabilities. Is this a threat, Admiral? Kizarn demanded. No. Sarah Chen stepped forward again. It's a choice. Humanity offers two paths forward. The first is genuine partnership. We'll share certain technologies. Medical advances, environmental restoration techniques, clean energy systems. We'll work together as equals, not as teacher and student. And the second path? Ixthal asked, though their crystalline harmonics suggested they already knew. The second path is isolation, Rice answered. Humanity withdraws from galactic affairs. We'll maintain diplomatic relations but seal our borders. No trade, no technological exchange, no cooperation. We'll continue our development alone, and you'll never know what we achieve behind those borders. The implications hung in the air. The elder species had assumed they could control humanity through restrictions and oversight. Instead, they faced losing access to human innovations entirely and living with the uncertainty of what humans might develop unsupervised. You would cut yourself off from the galactic community. Zarkax's neural patterns showed genuine surprise. Accept total isolation. If necessary, Chen nodded. But we prefer cooperation. Humanity's greatest achievements have always come from working with others, combining different perspectives to solve common problems. We're offering you the chance to be part of that. Another hologram appeared, showing the practical applications of human technology. Barren worlds transformed into gardens, devastating diseases cured, clean energy powering vast civilizations. The message was clear. Cooperation with humanity offered tremendous benefits. And if we refuse both options? Kizarn asked. If the Council decides to enforce its will. Admiral Rice's expression hardened slightly. Then you'll learn why we developed these technologies in the first place. Humanity doesn't seek conflict, but we've spent centuries preparing for it. The Orion Station showed you what one small outpost could do. Care to guess what our actual military installations are capable of? The chamber erupted in heated discussion. The younger races, many of whom had benefited from human medical technology and environmental engineering, largely supported cooperation. Several elder species representatives huddled in urgent consultation. You're forcing us to choose between surrendering our authority and facing potential military conflict, Ixthal observed. No, Chen corrected gently. We're offering you the chance to embrace a future where authority is earned through innovation and cooperation, not maintained through artificial restrictions. The galaxy is changing. The question is whether the elder species will change with it. The first speaker's crystalline form pulsed with complex harmonics as they processed this. Humanity had orchestrated this moment carefully, revealing enough of their capabilities to make their position credible, while maintaining sufficient uncertainty about their true strength to make conflict an unacceptable risk. The Council requires time to consider these options, Ixthal announced finally. Of course, Chen smiled diplomatically. but not too much time. Humanity's offer expires in one standard cycle. After that, we choose isolation by default. As the chamber descended into chaos, Sarah caught sight of her father watching from the observer's gallery. Director Chen's expression was proud but concerned. They had shown their hand, revealed their strategy. Now they would see if the elder species could adapt to a galaxy where they were no longer unchallenged. New dawn. The final hours of humanity's ultimatum ticked away in tense silence. The great crystal dome of the Galactic Assembly had been dark for nearly a full standard cycle as the Elder Council deliberated. Now, as Centauri Prime's triple suns rose on the horizon, representatives from across known space gathered for the Council's response. Dr. Elena Santos and Admiral Reyes joined Ambassador Chen in the human delegation section. The past day had seen frenetic diplomatic activity, with younger races sending representatives to express their support for humanity's position. Many had benefited from human medical technology and environmental engineering. They understood what isolation would cost the galaxy. The Council enters, announced the chamber's eye, its voice resonating through the vast space. First Speaker Ixthal led the procession of elder representatives, their crystalline form glowing with subtle harmonics that even experienced diplomats found difficult to interpret. Kizarn and Zarkax followed, along with representatives from the other elder species. Their expressions and postures gave nothing away. "We have considered humanity's proposal," Ixthal began without preamble. "It has sparked the most significant debate in Council history. Some argued for immediate military action, believing that humanity's technological advancement represents an existential threat to galactic stability." Admiral Reyes remained perfectly still, but her hand drifted slightly closer to her neural interface. Throughout human space, defense networks waited on high alert. Others, Ixthal continued, advocated for accepting humanity's offer of partnership, arguing that attempting to contain your species would be both futile and counterproductive. Both sides presented compelling arguments. Sarah Chen leaned forward slightly. "And what conclusion did the Council reach?" First Speaker. "Neither option initially proposed." Ixthal's crystalline form pulsed with new patterns. "Instead, we have a counteroffer." The chamber's holofield activated, displaying a complex network of interconnected research facilities and diplomatic installations. "We propose the creation of a new entity, the Galactic Scientific Cooperative, not controlled by the elder species, but truly collaborative, with representation from all spacefaring races, based on scientific achievement rather than age." Elena's eyes widened as she studied the proposal. It was more than a simple compromise. It represented a fundamental shift in how galactic civilization would approach technological development. The cooperative would facilitate the exchange of scientific knowledge, Kizarn explained, their scales shifting to lighter, more optimistic colors. All members would contribute research and share in the benefits, while maintaining their right to keep certain technologies private for defensive purposes. Most importantly, Zarkax added, neural interfaces pulsing steadily, advancement would no longer be restricted by arbitrary development stages. Any species that can contribute meaningful research would have equal standing. Sarah exchanged glances with Elena and Admiral Reyes. This was more than they had expected, a complete restructuring of galactic scientific cooperation. "You understand," Sarah said carefully, "that this would effectively end the elder species' traditional role as guardians of technological development." "Yes," Ixthal acknowledged. "Your species has demonstrated that the old model is no longer viable. We can either adapt or become obsolete. The elder species choose to adapt." Admiral Reyes stepped forward. "And military technology, defense research. Each species would maintain sovereignty over their defensive capabilities," Kizarn assured her. "The cooperative focuses on civilian technology, medical, environmental, energy production. Military research remains private, though members could choose to share defensive technologies through bilateral agreements." Elena's mind was already racing with the possibilities. The combined scientific knowledge of all spacefaring races, working together without artificial restrictions, we could achieve things none of us could manage alone. Precisely. Zarkax's neural patterns showed genuine enthusiasm. Humanity has proven that innovation needn't follow a predetermined path. Perhaps it's time for all of us to explore new possibilities. Sarah straightened, assuming her full diplomatic posture. Humanity would be honored to help establish the Galactic Scientific Cooperative. However, we have one condition. Name it, Ixthal invited. The cooperative must be truly democratic. Every member race gets equal voting rights on research priorities and resource allocation. No special privileges for elder species, no weighted voting based on age or territory. True scientific meritocracy. The elder representatives conferred briefly through their neural links. Agreed, Ixthal announced. The time of hierarchy based on age is over. Let achievement and innovation determine influence. The chamber erupted in applause and expressions of approval from a dozen different species. The younger races, long restricted by traditional development models, saw the dawning of a new era of opportunity. As the formal agreements were drafted and signed, Sarah found herself standing with Alina and Admiral Rice at the chamber's great observation window. Below them, Centauri Prime's capital city glittered in the triple sunlight. "Think it'll work?" Elena asked softly. "It has to," Sarah replied. The alternative was isolation or eventual conflict. This way, we all move forward together. Admiral Rice smiled slightly, and humanity maintains its defensive capabilities while gaining access to the combined scientific knowledge of all spacefaring races. Not a bad outcome. The real work begins now, Elena noted, already making research notes in her neural interface, integrating different species' scientific approaches, establishing common protocols, managing joint projects. That's what humans do best, Sarah reminded her. We adapt, we innovate, we find ways to work together. We just help the galaxy's oldest civilizations learn to do the same. Beyond the window, ships from a dozen different species moved through the lanes of orbital traffic. Soon, many would carry scientists and researchers to newly established cooperative facilities. The age of restricted development was over. A new era of unlimited possibility was about to begin. Humanity had achieved more than just avoiding conflict or maintaining independence. They had fundamentally changed how galactic civilization approached progress itself, not through force or threats, but by demonstrating a better way forward. As the final documents were signed and celebrations began, Sarah sent a brief message to Earth. Phase 3 complete. Operation New Dawn successful. The galaxy is changing, and humanity helped write the new rules.